this time we're going full bogan and diving headfirst in the land of ruse convicts, and enough slang to make a goddamn dictionary blush.
Sounds like someone's come down with a bad case of the Straya bug.
Yeah, well, could you say the listeners dumped a whole bloody truckload of Australia crap on us, so I guess we got to sort through the bullshit and see what's...
Don't worry, mate. We'll be going way beyond the usual shrimp on the Barbie cliches.
Damn right. We're talking ancient roots, colonial fuck-ups, and how this sunburnt patch of dirt turned into the glorious clusterfuck it is today.
Let's kick things off with those ancient roots, then. Aboriginal history, mate. We're talking at least 50,000 years of continuous culture.
50,000 years. Jesus Christ, that's older than my grandma's bunions.
It puts those pyramids everyone wanks over to shame, eh?
So these blokes were chilling here while Europe was still figuring out how to whip their arses.
Pretty much. And let's not forget that hunter-gatherer label is a load of bollocks. Recent research is showing us a much more complex picture.
Oh, yeah. Like what? Spill the beans, mate.
Well, for starters, they were masters of fire stick farming, strategically burning the land to promote biodiversity and manage resources.
So basically pyromaniac gardeners. I kind of like it.
Exactly. And it gets even more interesting. They were building semi-permanent shelters and even developed aquaculture techniques. Fish farming, mate. Way before anyone else.
Hang on, fish farming? That's some seriously advanced shit for a so-called primitive culture. Makes you wonder what other secrets are buried under all that red dirt, May.
Speaking of secrets, have you heard about McGrath's Flat?
Can't say I have.
Well, they dug up a prehistoric rainforest smack bang in the middle of the desert.
No shit. You're telling me the Outback used to be a bloody rainforest?
It's true, mate. This place was teeming with life back in the day. Giant marsupial lions, wombat-like creatures the size of a bloody car, and a whole ecosystem that's vanished without a trace.
Okay, now that has officially fucked up my perception of Australia. I thought it was all just desert spiders and Steve Irwin wrestling Crocs.
Well, get ready for more surprises because now we're fast-forwarding to the arrival of those pasty-faced Europeans.
Ah, yes, the good old days of exploration, which basically means a whole lot of colonial bullshit, right?
You got it, mate. And while Captain Cook gets all the glory, those Dutch bastards were sniffing around over a century earlier.
Yeah, did they call it New Holland or something wanky like that?
Spot on. Willem Jan Zoon charted the West Coast back in 1606, bumped into the locals, called it New Holland, and fucked off. But it was Cook who really stirred the pot.
By claiming the East Coast for Britain and kicking off a whole shitstorm of colonization.
Bingo! And let's not forget the whole convict thing. Australia was basically Britain's open-air prison.
Shipped them all off to the arse end of the world to fend for themselves. Talk about a rough start, eh?
It's a dark chapter, mate. These convicts were dumped in a foreign land, and the impact on the indigenous population was catastrophic. Displacement, disease, violence, the whole bloody lot.
And then they had the nerve to implement that white Australia policy, like some kind of racist country club.
Yeah, that was a real low point. These discriminatory immigration laws were designed to keep Australia white and British.
Which is just plain fucked up.
Yeah.
But they eventually ditched that bullshit, right? I mean, Australia's not exactly a white supremacist haven these days.
Thankfully, they did. Starting in the 50s, they gradually dismantled the White Australia policy and opened the doors to immigrants from all over the shop.
So they went from a racist sausage fest to a multicultural melting pot.
Interesting. So how did that whole transition go down? Did the Aussies just suddenly embrace everyone with open arms and start sharing their Barbies and beers?
Not exactly a love fest at first, mate.
Yeah,
Well,
figured as much. So spill the beans. How did this shift to a multicultural society actually play out?
It took time, mate. But the influx of immigrants from Europe and later Asia completely transformed Australian society. It wasn't always pretty, but it laid the groundwork for the multicultural badassery we see today.
So they went from a racist sausage fest to a multicultural melting pot. Sounds like they finally got their shit together. But what about this whole Aussie identity thing? What the hell makes an Aussie an Aussie? It's a bit of a mixed bag, mate. You've got the egalitarian spirit, the fair go for everyone, and the whole mateship thing, looking out for your mates no matter what.
Sounds a bit like a socialist biker gang with a soft spot for barbecues.
There's also that irreverent humor, the love of taking the piss, and a healthy disrespect for authority. And let's not forget the bloody slang, mate. They've got more words for drunk than there are stars in the sky.
So basically a bunch of piss-taking larrikins with hearts of gold and a vocabulary that would make a sailor blush. I'm starting to like these Aussies.
Now let's talk about their government. They've got this weird-ass setup they call the Washminster mutation.
Washminster mutation. Sounds like some kind of political SPD.
It's like they took the British system, chucked in a bit of American federalism, and gave it a good shake.
A political cocktail with a dash of British pomp and a shot of American chaos. Sounds bloody interesting.
They've got a queen who's basically a figurehead, a prime minister who actually runs the show, and a bunch of states that squabble over who gets the most funding. It's a bloody mess, but somehow it works.
And what about their economy? Is it all just digging shit out of the ground and selling it to China?
Nah, they got a pretty diversified economy these days. Mining and agriculture are still big, but they've also got a booming service sector, a decent manufacturing industry, and a growing tech scene.
So they're not just a bunch of bogans in high-vis vests.
Uh,
Color me surprised. What about tourism? Do people actually go there for fun, or is it all just backpackers and crocodile hunters?
Australia is a bloody tourist magnet, mate. Stunning beaches, the vast outback, unique wildlife, they've got it all. And let's not forget the vibrant cities like Sydney and Melbourne.
All right, so they've got a decent economy, they're not all racist anymore, and they've got shitloads to offer tourists. But what about their culture? Do they actually have any, highbrow shit going on?
Don't underestimate those Aussies, mate.
Right.
They've got a rich literary tradition, a
Yeah.
thriving film industry, and a music scene that's produced some absolute legends.
Hold up, you're telling me they've got more to offer than just Crocodile Dundee and AC/DC?
They've got their own version of the Pulitzer Prize, the Miles Franklin Award, and they've even produced a couple of Nobel laureates in literature, Patrick White, Peter Carey. These blokes are the real deal.
I'll be a drunken drop bear. Those Aussies are full of surprises. What about their films? Anything worth watching besides those Mad Max flicks?
They had this movement in the 70s called the Australian New Wave, which produced some seriously acclaimed films, Picnic at Hanging Rock, Gallipoli. These films put Australian cinema on the map.
Okay, I've heard of Picnic at Hanging Rock. That was a bit creepy, right? Disappearing schoolgirls and all that.
Yeah, it's a mind-bending film that captures the haunting beauty and underlying darkness of the Australian landscape. And speaking of film history, did you know Australia produced the world's first feature-length narrative film?
No way. Seriously, what was it called? Kangaroo Dundee and the Lost Gold of Uluru.
Not quite. It was called The Story of the Kelly Gang, released back in 1906. It told the tale of Ned Kelly, a legendary bushranger who became a folk hero.
So they've got literature, film, what about music? Anything besides those head-banging AC/DC blokes?
Australian music is as diverse as their bloody landscape.
Yeah.
You've got INXS, Kylie Minogue, Nick Cave, and the Bad Seeds. These are just a few of the icons they've produced.
All right, I'll admit it. I'm impressed. These Aussies are more than just beer-swilling, shrimp barbecuing, slang-slinging larrikins. But what about the other side of the coin? What about the not-so-pretty aspects of Australian society?
Like any country, Australia has its fair share of problems. They're still grappling with Indigenous disadvantage, social inequality, and the whole climate change shit show.
Yeah, those are some heavy topics. What are they doing to fix those fuck-ups?
There are ongoing efforts to address these issues. The government has implemented various policies and programs aimed at closing the gap for Indigenous Australians, promoting social inclusion and reducing their carbon footprint. But it's a long, hard slog, mate.
Sounds like a work in progress, as it is everywhere. But at least they're acknowledging the problems and trying to sort their shit out. Now let's lighten things up a bit. What do Aussies do for fun? Besides getting pissed and chucking shrimp on the Barbie, of course.
Australians love their sport, mate. They're fanatical about cricket, Aussie rules, football, rugby, you name it. They're also big on outdoor recreations, surfing, camping, hiking, fishing. They love spending time in nature, which makes sense considering the vast and diverse landscape they've got.
Of course, the beaches. How could I forget those? I've seen pictures. They look absolutely stunning.
Australia has some of the most beautiful beaches in the world, mate. Golden sand, turquoise water, perfect waves. It's a surfer's paradise. And let's not forget the Great Barrier Reef, one of the most incredible natural wonders on the planet.
Yeah, the Great Barrier Reef. That's on my bucket list for sure.
Yeah.
But I've heard it's in trouble because of climate change and all that crap.
Sadly, it's true. The reef is facing serious threats from rising sea temperatures, pollution, and overfishing. It's a reminder that we need to get our shit together and protect our planet before it's too late.
Preach it, brother. Okay, so we've covered Aussie culture, their love of sport, and the outdoors, even their environmental challenges. What else is there to know about these fascinating bastards?
Well, we could delve into their unique wildlife. Australia is home to some of the most bizarre and wonderful creatures on Earth. Kangaroos, koalas, wombats, echidnas, Tasmanian devils. You won't find these critters anywhere else.
Tasmanian devils, those little guys are fucking ferocious, right?
They've got a reputation for being pretty feisty.
Yeah.
But they're also facing their own challenges, like a contagious facial tumor disease that's decimating their population.
That's fucked up. Hopefully they can find a way to save those little bastards.
Yeah.
They're too cool to go extinct.
There are ongoing conservation efforts to protect Tasmanian devils and other threatened species in Australia, but it's an uphill battle, mate.
Well, fingers crossed they can pull it off.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from ancient Aboriginal culture to modern-day Aussie life, from their political fuck-ups to their environmental challenges, from their love of sport to their unique and often bizarre wildlife.
We've only scratched the surface, mate. There's so much more to discover about this vast and complex continent.
I'm starting to realize that Australia is more than just kangaroos and shrimp on the Barbie. It's a country with a rich history, a diverse culture, and a spirit of resilience that's hard to find anywhere else.
All right, mate, we've been through the ringer with this Australia deep dive. From ancient Aboriginal secrets to modern-day Aussie shenanigans, it's been one hell of a ride. What stuck with you the most?
It's got to be the Aboriginal culture for me, mate. 50,000 years of continuous history, adapting and thriving in one of the harshest environments on Earth. There were innovators, environmental managers, and spiritual custodians of this land long before those European wankers showed up and fucked everything up.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing how they managed to survive and flourish for so long. They had a deep connection to the land and a wisdom that we seem to have lost somewhere along the way.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What can we learn from them? How can we reconnect with nature and find that same sense of balance and respect? Deep shit, man. Deep shit. But hey, let's not get all philosophical and shit. We're here to have a laugh and learn some stuff along the way. So what else tickled your fancy during this Aussie adventure?
I gotta say, learning about that Washminster mutation was a real eye-opener. Who knew the Aussies had their own political Frankenstein's monster?
It's a bloody weird system, that's for sure. A queen, they don't really give a shit about a prime minister who calls the shots and a bunch of states squabbling like siblings over a bag of lollies. But hey, it seems to work for them.
They've managed to create a stable democracy while still holding on to some of those quirky British traditions. It's a unique blend, that's for sure.
So let's wrap this up with a little quiz. What have we learned about Australia today? It's a land of key.
Ancient cultures, convict origins, and a melting pot of immigrants who somehow managed to create a unique and often contradictory identity.
A nation that loves its sport, its beer, and its slang, but also faces serious challenges like indigenous disadvantage, social inequality, and climate change.
A country with stunning landscapes, from the vast outback to the iconic beaches, and a wildlife that's both bizarre and beautiful.
And most importantly, a country full of people who don't take themselves too seriously, have a knack for taking the piss, and always look after their mates.
Sounds about right, mate.
Well, there you have it, folks. Australia. More than just kangaroos and shrimp on the Barbie. It's a land of surprises, contradictions, and a whole lot of heart.
Yeah.
So next time you hear someone crack a joke about drop bears or Vegemite, remember there's a lot more to this island continent than meets the eye.
And who knows what other secrets are waiting to be uncovered. Maybe they'll find evidence of an even older civilization or a new species of venomous spider that can kill you with a single bite.
Now that's a thought to leave you with. Until next time, keep your stubby holders full, your akubras tilted, and your minds open to the wonders of this crazy world. Cheers, mates.